It's okay, you can beat yourselves. Okay, so the Wars of Religion, Unit 1.4. We are finishing up. This is the last part of our unit. It's been a long journey since August, guys. Congratulations. We're going to make it. And so I think, anyway, it's October, which is a long month. No breaks. So, did I just burst your bubble? Good. Somebody burst mine today. So that's what they told me. October and April, no breaks. No. Why?
What did they burst?
That there's no break, like October, it's like April.
All five
I think I block out the pain every year and then,
calendar.
I know.
I'm only scared of
I live day by day, kind of, you know.
Friday.
Yeah. Plague doctors? Anyone? Plague doctors? I'm Marie Antoinette. My husband is Louis the 16th. Yeah. Historical figures equals extra credit. Come on now. Figure it out. All right. So, I mean, Martin Luther. Hey, Matt, the hair solution. You can come as Martin Luther. Like, yeah, there. Yeah. All right. The Wars of Religion, 1560s to 1648, if you were wondering where we are. Our essential question kind of guiding stuff through right here, as I've hidden from myself, I wrote a note that said, please remind them of the essential question. We are going to be analyzing the extent and impact that religion played in the Dutch Revolt, the French Civil Wars, the 30 Years' War, and then we'll get to the English Civil War later. So you can kind of take that part out. But that's your first essential question from your packet. You should be adding to your reading from Merriman from last time. And so we're going to get into Wars of Religion. So a reminder, 2 key dates. What was our first key date? 1517. Halloween, speaking of. Martin Luther did what in the cinematic version? Very good. Nailed the 95 Theses to the door. Probably mailed them in, but we're going to go with the cinematic, more fun version. And then we have, what's the next key date? 1555, which is the Peace of Augsburg. So that temporarily relieves some stress. It's like a teapot when you let the steam out. We didn't let things boil over. We have the princes agreeing that people can move between the districts in Germany. I mean, we still had stuff going on. Like, we still had lots of executions. We had, the Inquisition and stuff. But we aren't going to have wars between nations about religion yet. We're going to talk about one final war, the last dynastic struggle, and then we're getting into wars of religion, which are going to plague us for about the next century in Europe. Did you have a question, Laura? Did I enter? Okay. So the Wars of Religion, where we're starting off, so you have a temporary peace, and then we're going to add another key date today. We are adding 1588, and you will find out what happens then. So just make a note maybe at the top with your essential question that you have a key date today as well, 1588. But before we can get there, of course, there's always some background story. They don't just hop in and be like, religious wars, and make it easy on us. A whole lot of stuff's got to happen. A whole lot of people got to tick each other off. So that's where we're going. So the last dynastic struggle we need to talk about are the good old Habsburgs that we've been following. If you remember, the Habsburgs trace themselves back to Switzerland and Austria, their power. Mainly Austria when they're speaking of their power. And if you remember, we talked about the electors would elect a Holy Roman Emperor. Well, in the 13th century, they elect a Habsburg. And then they just happen to keep electing Habsburgs. And so it just turns out that Habsburgs end up being our rulers of the Holy Roman Empire. So we have the Habsburg-Valois Wars. I guess in French, I'm giving away my next question, the Valois Wars. So that is our new French kings that we talked about in the 100 Years' War. We had our first Valois king in the 100 Years' War. And so this is we're going to see as a war not over religion, but we have to talk about it to understand the wars of religions. So what's going to happen is we have our Valois kings who are up-and-comers. There are power in France. We talked about them in the 100 Years' War. And remember, we talked about Italy was all divided into city-states, and so it was allowing itself to be easily conquered. So we have the Habsburgs who are, you can kind of say, are Spanish, Holy Roman Empire-esque. And then you have our French, and they're going to be coming into Italy as well. And so they're going to be invading, and we're going to see that they're going to begin fighting each other over this area in Italy. So unfortunately, Italy takes the brunt of all of this fighting because they aren't united and they can't stay together. And so we're going to have this war going on between, and what's really going to happen, and what the important part is that France and Spain are going to start fighting, and France is trying to keep the Holy Roman Empire at bay, which we've talked about. France's number one political goal at this time is to keep what modern-day nation not unified? Germany, okay, which is the Holy Roman Empire, okay? Ultimately, all you really need to know here is that Spain is going to defeat France. This is the beginning of Spain coming to be a power in Europe that we're going to follow through for a great deal of time. We're going to do a lot of talking about Spain for a while, and then we're not going to talk about Spain at all, like second semester. Like it's going to be like, oops. So we'll talk about how that happens. But why we're even talking about this here is because of the Treaty of Cateau-Cambrai in 1559 is going to end the Habsburg and Valois Wars, and this was our last purely dynastic wars of the 16th century. Everything after this, up to a point, is going to be religious. So this is the turning point. Remember, AP Euro likes to focus on those turning points, so you want to keep that in mind. This is a turning point in warfare. These wars have been political in nature and not religious, since both France and the Holy Roman Empire were Catholic. And so now we're going to start to see the wars from here on out going to take on a religious. But also AP Euro focuses on results. So the results of these wars in the treaty is that France had kept the Holy Roman Empire from controlling all of Germany while inadvertently helping Lutheranism to spread. So what really happens and leads this war from dynastic into religious, and why we need to talk about it, is because while France is out there fighting, they let Protestantism or Calvinism sneak into their country. Okay, so they are not keeping their country purely Catholic. They are too busy fighting against the Habsburgs to keep it at bay. But they are able to keep Germany divided, which was their plan. But it will help Protestantism spread inadvertently. So their intention was not to allow that, and they do. And so France is going to choose the political issue of a possible strong German state on its eastern border as being more important than the religious unity of Europe. So even then, the French are more worried about Germany than their own well-being. We'll talk about that a couple times in second semester with World War I and World War II. And so they're going to let Protestantism sneak in. That's a significant thing here. And this is a major reason for Germany's inability to move towards unification. So we've talked about that already. So this is kind of a recap. How this is going to happen for the Habsburgs or Spain, as we're going to be moving into our next unit, we're going to see Spain defeated France for control of Sicily, Naples, and Milan, while Spanish influence was also strong in the Papal States and Tuscany. And this is going to become the golden age of Spain in the late 16th century, which we'll get to in our next unit. So the golden age of Spain. Spain is on the rise. Okay? So 1560 to 1648, this is the topic of our lecture today. This is an overview, so if you'd like to put this at the top, you can. We'll be talking about each of these bullet points or each of these letters in full detail, so you don't have to. So what we're going to talk about today is wars that are going to be fought largely over religious issues. Spain is going to seek to squash Protestantism in Western Europe and the spread of Islam in the Mediterranean. So they are all anti-anything but Catholic. We're going to talk about how that works out for them and the people who are not Catholic. French Catholics are going to seek to squash the Huguenots. Okay, so we're going to see that the French are now going to have to deal with the French Calvinists. That's what a Huguenot is, if you remember from our Protestantism lecture, that they let sneak in while they were off dealing with the Spanish. We're going to see the Holy Roman Empire is going to seek to reimpose Catholicism. So we're still Charles V, poor Holy Roman Emperor. It's just like, we can still do it. We can still stop all these people. And then we're going to see the Calvinist Netherlands are going to break away from Spanish rule. So that's pretty significant for our Low Countries. And then we're going to see a civil war occurring in England between the Puritans and Anglicans, which we are going to touch on briefly here, but I'm going to save the biggest part for Unit 3.2 when we talk about state building and how England and France start to differ very much. Okay? So you can write all these down if you want. These are our topics of today's lecture, so we will have them as headings again. Yes, sir?
How did Netherlands get put out of Spain? Was it like dynastic or war?
How did what get put out of Spain?
Netherlands.
The war. We're going to see a uprising. Due to religion, because the Netherlands are primarily what religion that we've spoken about.
Well, like, how did they become Spanish?
How did they become Spanish? They were just taken over by the rulers, yeah. By conquest, just as the southern part of Italy was. Okay, are we all good to go? I didn't want to make anybody not be able to write. And this is recorded too. We're recording. You can come back and watch. You could turn it on your iPad in just a minute. We're live for Saturday. So, Spain's Catholic Crusade. We're going to start with Spain. I told you that we're going into their golden age, so I want to talk about what's going on there. So, Philip II is going to seek to reimpose Catholicism just like his daddy, Charles V. Okay, Charles V is his father, so like father, like son. So he's going to take on that. He is a fanatic about it. Charles V was kind of fanatical about it too, but he had a lot of other stuff going on. Philip II is really going to be fanatical about it. We're going to see that under Philip, Spain became the dominant country in Europe, however, and that might have been him being able to keep his country solidified under one religion. There's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot of historical debate to be discussed there, and we won't go into that because we can't, say either way. But he will lead the golden age of Spain. You have to remember also, though, he can't take full credit. We've had the New World in Spanish, a lot of conquest and holding there, and so that's allowing them to have currency, gold and silver. So that plays a big deal in having what you call a golden age. We're going to see that he is a Habsburg, the Spanish part of the family. And what happens when Charles V doesn't die, he abdicates his Holy Roman Empire. So he's going to give half to his brother and half to his son Philip. And he's going to give Philip Spanish part and the Netherlands, which we'll see what happens there with his fanatical behavior in the Netherlands, as Stephen was asking us about. And so we're going to see that. And then he gives his brother the other parts of the empire, the Holy Roman Empire, so more northern Europe. What do I want to talk to you about next? Oh, so his palace, Le Escorial, is right here. It's a drawing of the palace. You know how kind of like Hickman is purple and gold, and the Kewpie is our thing, and we're all special. Well, kings kind of have like their homes. We're going to get into this especially with Versailles. We'll see it in the summer house. This is one of the first to talk about, and a lot of people don't ever hear about this one. But Philip has this palace erected. It's his royal palace, but it's also a monastery and a mausoleum. So that says a lot about him right there, what's important to him. It's very representative of Philip. He has it's supposed to look like a grill. See, there's two stories, and I'll try to tell you in my best historical interpretation which one I feel is correct. But there's two stories of what it's supposed to look like. So the first story is that it's set to look like a grill, and there's this guy called Lawrence who becomes a saint because of his martyrdom for his religion, for Catholicism. And so instead of being burnt at the stake, he was supposedly burnt on a grill. And so then it said that Philip then built this as a representation of that grill in honor of St. Lawrence. So that's one version of our story. But it represents just how Catholic he was. Like where Louis the 14th, it's going to represent, like Versailles, very much his power and sun god and absolute monarch. You can see that it sets a tone for what kind of rulership that Philip's going to have. Second story that we have, other people say that he built it on the biblical description of King Solomon in Judaism's temple. And so from the plans that he could put together from the books of the Bible. So either way, very religious. I'm not going to go through an argument with you. We'll just say it was a religious palace. And so we're going to see that this palace symbolized the power of Philip as well as his commitment to the Catholic Crusade. He believes himself to be the center of the Catholic world. He told the architects when building this, I want simplicity, severity, nobility, and he doesn't want to be seen as like prideful or ordained. So if you see pictures of it in person, I don't have any personal pictures of my own, but it's very clean it's very clean for being Catholic. Very just simple stone. He doesn't want to be ornate, austere. So let's see. So what's gonna? Oh, I went too far already. So he's reminiscent of earlier Christian crusades, and how he's going to do that is he's going to wage war against the Turks. Remember, everybody was afraid the Muslims are coming. The Muslims are coming. So he's going to wage war against the Turks in the Mediterranean to secure the region for the Christian merchants. And so he's going to sail his ships into the Mediterranean. He says his reasoning, they always say it's a different reason other than just religion, is to protect the Christian seafaring traders from the incoming Turks. Oh, why did I skip a slide here? We'll just sit on William I while we're still talking about Philip. I hate to do that, but I don't know why I didn't get him in here. Anyway, we're going to see Spain waging a war against the Turks, and we're going to see the Battle of Lepanto. Did I have that on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. Okay. See, I'm not losing my mind. I know I typed it somewhere. In 1571, the Battle of Lepanto is going to be the Spanish defeat of the Turkish navy off the coast of Greece. This is going to end. Why this is a turning point date that you need to kind of have down. It's going to end the Turk invasion in the Mediterranean. It's going to stop it. Okay. We're also going to see that Spain's religious fervor in this battle with the Turks was reminiscent of the earlier Christian Crusades, and it ends the Ottoman threat in the Mediterranean. So all that will come back and be important. Okay, now I can go. Poor Omer, when he watches our video, he's going to be like, what? Same side 3 times in a row. All right, so the Dutch revolt. So here's where we get to the lowlands. If you remember, the Low Countries are named the Low Countries because they're low in elevation as compared to the sea. I don't know if I just had parents that were like odd, or if everyone read this book, but they built these dikes in the Low Countries to like keep the ocean out. And anybody else read the little children's book, like the little dike boy? Like did you guys have to too? Is it still there? Okay. But I can't remember the end of this story. I was thinking about this today when I was thinking about the Low Countries, and the ocean starts to come through, and he's there to like save Did he save the whole place? What happened in the end? Is there an end to that story? For the life of me, I can't remember anything but him like finger and then a toe and then another. I can't. All right, so nobody. It's not just me. I thought I like blanked it out or something, or I'm getting that old. I can't remember my childhood, but. It's all of us. So anyway, we're in the Low Countries, which is called, it's going to be called the United Provinces of the Netherlands, because they are going to form a coalition against Philip II. So what happens is Philip II, his daddy abdicates gets rid of his throne, divides things up between his brother and his son. He gives his son the Netherlands. And Philip II is kind of a micromanager. People like that, it's like they can't just tell you a big task and I'd like you to have this report done by this time, but they're going to say, well, I also want it exactly in this font, and you need to have the rough draft to me within a day, and then 2 days later I'd like to also check one of your body paragraphs, and then it has to be in this specific format. And so he's micromanaging the Netherlands, and it's really not making them happy. And one of the things he's micromanaging is the fact that he really wants the Netherlands to return to Catholicism, which they definitely do not want. They're pretty tolerant people, actually very tolerant in the Netherlands, and they are also not Catholic. They're sea traders. So they're valuable. So it's not like something Philip II wants to give up. That's probably why he's a little heavy-handed in ruling them, because they are really valuable. We're going to see the Dutch are going to be our most successful traders, our age of the Dutch, and then they'll make so much money off that trading that they'll just be able to live off the interest and kind of stay out of everybody's business for a while. And we'll talk about that in our next unit. Also, little random fact: they are the tallest people in the world by average. So. Little randomness there. What? Oh, I don't know. Last time I checked, it was still the Netherlands. We can do a recheck. We can recalculate. Not to say that fact hasn't changed since the last. It's not something I Google daily, so we could totally check it out. All right. So that brings us to William I, or William of Orange. He is going to, in their aggravation against Philip II, he is going to unite what are known as the 17 provinces of the Netherlands. They used to be little fiefs, remember from feudalism in the Middle Ages. So they were fiefdoms. I like that word, fiefdoms. They were fiefdoms in the Middle Age, but now there's 17 provinces. And William of Orange is going to say, let's unite, let's go against Philip II, and lead a charge against the Spanish Inquisition, because Philip has been in the Netherlands trying to crush the rise of Calvinism there. which is not going over very well. And so William I, they will organize what is known as the United Provinces of the Netherlands, and it's formed in 1581. So United Provinces of the Netherlands, 1581. Other times called the Dutch Republic. And you might write to the side N for north or north. This is the northern provinces. The south is going to be a little more reliable on the Spanish, and they're going to kind of sway that way. So the north. Of course, whenever you lead a revolution, you need some help. So who do you think in the world at this time would be the person you'd turn to for aid if you were a Protestant? Yeah, very good. England. You're going to turn to England. Miss Elizabeth I is queen right there. I just love the drama. It's all unfolded in this, like with our Virgin Queen. So we'll get to that in a second. But we're going to see that they turn to English for aid. Elizabeth is happy to help as being a Protestant herself. And this is going to be a major blow to Philip's goal of maintaining Catholicism throughout his empire. And we'll get to all of the behind the scenes thing about what was really going on between Philip and Elizabeth at this time. But he is really not happy with her for helping, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's a huge blow to him maintaining Catholicism throughout his empire. And so now we will get the Spanish Netherlands, which are modern-day Belgium. The southern 10 provinces remain under Spain's control. So this becomes called the Spanish Netherlands. Today it's called Belgium. So like I said, the South doesn't kind of follow the North in the Revolution, so they're going to stay with Spain. The North is going to get help from Elizabeth, and they are going to be the Dutch Republic, or the United Provinces of the Netherlands, and they will separate here. And another important fact here is that when all this fighting is going on, we are going to see the Dutch closing of the Scheldt River results in the demise of Antwerp as the center of Europe's commercial center, and the rise of Amsterdam. From 1600s. Yeah, go Amsterdam. So this is like a little trivial fact. We're going to come back to it, though. Some historians have spent a lot of time researching this shift. I would just like to tell you, they closed a river while they were fighting. They said you couldn't bring your tradie stuff here. Amsterdam's open. They move it there. Simple, yeah, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. All right, so here's the fun part. So back to Tudors. I promised myself I'd keep it simple. I promise, and I promise you. So Spain versus England. So we had Queen Mary. Yes, Bloody Mary. The Bloody Mary, not the Mary Queen of Scots who gets killed by Elizabeth, but Bloody Mary, the son of Henry. She is very, very Catholic. She is also Philip's wife. So same Philip we've been talking about. He tried to reimpose Catholicism in England. She had, of course, who her hubby is. They are like the Catholic power duo. And so we see that Mary and Philip are married. She marries him before he became king of Spain. But she is going to die, and they have no children. Remember, she has this strange stomach, maybe kind of psychosomatic. We couldn't remember that word last time. Woo, see, better day. So psychosomatic. And they're going to live without children. And then, of course, when she died, Elizabeth I is going to reverse everything that Mary had done. Now, at this point, Philip does not dislike Elizabeth. Actually, he kind of turns to her and goes, hey, now that your sister's dead and you're the queen, we could just do this whole marriage thing. And Elizabeth's like, no, and she refuses him because she's the Virgin Queen. Remember her I think there's a lot of historians that would argue different ways, but I really think that she was using it as she has sole power. She then looks like she's married to England, which she references several times and shows her love for England because, remember, there had been all of that rhetoric about her legitimacy to the throne. And also because I just don't think that she wanted to share her power with a man. Nevertheless, a very, very Catholic guy. And so all of this goes on. She refuses him. But Philip doesn't really dislike Elizabeth. She even has the Elizabethan settlement. But what's really going to happen is when she helps the Protestants in the Netherlands. So it takes all of that. She'd done a pretty nice job, finagling a lot of the families. Because imagine if you were a family with a marriable son at this time, and you could inherit England or some of the power of England. You'd be a pretty hot ticket, and so she used that quite a bit to her advantage. But Philip is going to, it's unforgivable. He just, I like the theory, he's so, she wouldn't go out with me, what? Like, so that, but it's really more she helped the Protestants, and it really ticks him off. And so what he's going to do, and she has even beheads Catholic Mary, Queen of Scots, so she beheads the Scottish Queen for being Catholic, so then Philip uses that as well. I still think it's because she wouldn't, hook up with him, but whatever. And so Philip is going to seek revenge for England's aid, a support of the Dutch, and sought to make the English Catholic again. So he's going to say it's all about religion. Let's take it back to when Mary was there in Catholicism. Yes, ma'am.
So you can't marry your brother's wife, but can you marry your sister's husband?
Leviticus. Somebody school us on Leviticus. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I looked it up, and the Netherlands, when it comes to men, on average, is tallest. However,
thank you.
Norway beats the Netherlands with women.
Oh, so in general tallness, but it is the leggy Norway
beats
women
beats
that.
them with the women's side.
Ah, thank you. See, I love clarification right in the middle, too. And so we're looking up Leviticus. Now, remember, the Bible only said that the Pope had said in a dispensation that Henry could. So it depends on your... So we'll let Trevor look that up for us, and then we will come back to it. So anyway, he planned a monumental invasion of England in 1588. So here's your key date. The key date at the top is right now, 1588. We are going to see the Spanish Armada try to attack. I can't even keep it a secret for a second because it makes me giggle. Try to attack England. He's like really, I don't know. I don't know if I don't like him because of his persecution of other religions. I just don't like him because he just didn't believe a woman could rule on her own. He gets rejected. I'm saying it's because she got rejected. And he gets all in a tizzy, and he's going to launch this whole armada at England. So he launches this armada at England, 1588. He is going to take 130 galleons, which is the big, huge Spanish ships, and he is going to launch them towards England, but he's going to say, hey, I still have the Spanish Netherlands. We need to pick up some guys there on our way to the English Channel. So you kind of picture in the map right there, all my acers of the geography quiz. And so it's going to, I won't ruin it all. I won't say exactly what happens in. I'll give you a little more background. So they're on their way there. The guys aren't ready. Okay, they're waiting in these big ships. Well, England, if you didn't do, you all did great under geography quiz, so I can't even say that. But it's an island, so it's got pretty good sailors. It's got pretty good ships. It's made a pretty good, decent, it's a must. So the Spanish have these huge ships sitting in a fairly narrow channel. Like when I was going across the English Channel, you can see the other side when you're leaving. It's not like with 130 galleons. That's a lot of big ships in a small area. And so the English are like, whatever, we might not be as rich as the Spanish, but we got a lot of ships. So they send I'm talking like row, row, row your boat ships out there, like a guy with 2 oars. Like they sent everything, like every ship that was ever on England. And so these little boats, because the galleons can't really turn, and they're so close to each other that they're going to hit each other. And so the English are just like row, row, row your boat. Look at my kid, and row it away, they can't do anything. And then they decide, and I think it's Sir Francis Drake, that said, what if we just took all the really crappy little boats and we, right before we get there, we catch them on fire and just launch them into the ships. And so they do, and it starts, gunpowders in the Spanish ships, and so they start blowing up. And I'm just like, this is the best. I don't get into military. Ms. McKenzie and I have told you, I will not draw on the board, this guy marched here. But we talk about, rowing a boat and catching it on fire and then bailing before it hits out. That is cool military warfare. Anyway, and that is how women think. I'd like to think that Queen Elizabeth was sitting back there just like she is in this picture, with a little smirk on her face. Here's the Spanish Armada now. Look at my ships, what? I think, let's just send them all. I'd like to think that. That's my feminist urge right there. But anyway, so the thing is this becomes a disaster for the Spanish Armada. Not so much because the English defeat them right there. They were stalled, but they go to turn back, and a huge storm crops up. Kind of I like to compare it to the storm, and we'll get to later with the Japanese battle, but it's almost just an ungodly force of wind, and they actually start calling it the Protestant wind. Because as the Spanish Armada is trying to get out, and could probably have made it back to Spain, by all accounts, a huge storm comes up and it crashes their boats into the rocks. What boats are left? And the English are going to then use that like the Protestant wind. See, God is on the side of Protestantism. He has helped take out your armada. And so we're going to see a huge, devastating attempt by Spain. Much of Spain's navy will lie in ruins due to that storm. It showed the effectiveness of England's smaller but better armed navy, and it signaled the rise of England as a world naval power. So if you're talking about why it's a key date, these are the reasons why. It signaled the beginning of England as a world naval power, and although some historians would say this was the end of Spain's golden age, it is not. It is really just the start of a decline of the Spanish. So like I said, we'll get to talk about them for some time, and then they'll kind of fade away in the distance. But that's what you get for messing with Elizabeth. Spanish, yeah. Anyway, so any questions about the Spanish Armada, Spain versus England? So who won? England, okay. and the Northern Dutch win. Yeah, I mean, so.
I think I found it.
And the wind. Oh, you found it?
Yes.
Okay, so can you marry your sister's
According
husband?
to this, there isn't anything about your sister's husband, but it does say if a man has sexual intercourse with his sister, whether the daughter of his father or his mother, so he sees her nakedness and sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace, and they must cut off the sight of the children of their people, and they must expose
Leviticus.
their nakedness, and they will bear the punishment of iniquity. So I'm guessing that could be loosely
Yeah,
connected
to do.
your sister's husband.
Yeah, viewing, yeah. Leviticus, man.
Well, no, see,
That's like incest.
her
Yeah.
marrying him
Incest is not okay.
would be the
Somewhere
same.
about incest.
A
Yeah.
man has sexual intercourse with his brother's wife.
Yeah.
So if a woman were to marry her
It's still the
sister's
brother.
husband,
It's still.
It's
that
still
would be her marrying her
brother. Yeah.
in law, which would make it her.
I think same rule should apply. I think Elizabeth didn't want God to punish her, and she plus Philip. Like, you seen the paintings of that guy? Like, not that really mattered back then, because we saw a lot of humanist paintings of a lot of them. All right. So next topic is Civil War in France. This is at least 9 wars between 1562 and 1598. So at least 9 wars. There's a lot of background knowledge right here. I'm going to try to run as quickly as I can through it so I can give you some work time, and not have as long of a have to add to the video this weekend, because then I have to go back and like match my voice up. But we'll try. We'll do what we can do. So we talked about the Valois family. So in the Valois-Habsburg Wars, the beginning of the end, we're going to see that Henry II will be the last powerful Valois or French king, and so we're going to kind of stop there. Bless you. And I'll give you a little bit of background knowledge. So we have Francis I, who was our Valois king in the Valois Wars, and we have him fighting Charles V. So the Habsburgs fighting the. So they're busy. Okay, so we have the Valois kings being all busy. And so we see the Huguenots sneak into France, like we've already talked about. This is going to be a huge deal. So they turn their back for a second to go fight these people, Catholic versus Catholic. That's why they turn to religious wars. You fight against your own, and this is what happens. So they turn their back. Protestantism slips in while he's gone. And then we're going to see that the Huguenots are in. Henry II is going to be the last of the powerful kings. He's going to end up marrying a woman we've already talked about, Catherine de' Medici. So he marries her, so she's also very Catholic, and comes in here. And she's actually kind of made fun of in France. They call her the shopkeeper's daughter. But which is like, I'm like, what kind of insult? Like, yeah, so I'm really rich. Shun me, please. But I don't know, the French have along, like Marie Antoinette came in really wealthy too, and they just totally disliked her as well. So maybe that's not your bag. She's Austrian.
Well,
Yeah.
then of course.
Yeah. I mean, well, they already disliked her just because of her nationality. But this, I don't know, the Italians and French, not so good here either. So maybe they just call it like, you're rich. That's their mean girl streak or whatever, anyway. I reference the French as women a lot too, so get used to that. I don't know why. I think it's like Lady Liberté. I just always think of them. Anyway, so we see all this happen. He's going to marry Catherine de' Medici. She's the granddaughter of Lorenzo de' Medici, the Magnificence that we've spoken about, to kind of give you some background knowledge. And so what's going to happen is he is going to die. So Henry II is going to have a death. He has 3 sons. He's married to Catherine. So he has 3 weak sons that we're going to talk about. Well, actually, I'm planning on ending at Henry III and picking up there with the Henry Wars, because that's just funny. So anyway, 3 weak sons, but he had a very strong wife. Like, she is no sit-at-home, crochet sweater kind of wife. She is has been very exposed to Machiavelli. She, of course, because Borgia is very close in Italy to the Medicis, not like close like we're buddy-buddy, but, you know, running relatively close. She's familiar with Machiavelli. She's a very driven, kind of conspiratory woman whose main concern is that her 3 sons stay in power at all costs. So she's kind of like Machiavelli. Like, if you have to be cunning, if you have to be the fox and the lion, those sorts of things. And so she's the regent. When he dies, she becomes the regent, which means she's helped ruling for her 3 sons. And so Francis II, the first son that we're going to talk about, he has had an arranged marriage with a lady that we just talked about, which, no spoiler alert, is going to die. But his marriage at 9 months of age was arranged to marry Queen of Scots. So you kind of know how she's going to meet her fate. So Mary, Queen of Scots, they do get married. And this, of course, this is before she's dead. We're kind of backtracking a little bit. But so Francis II, and so this is going to give them the claim to the English throne, kind of going back to those 100-Year War stuff. And so this is very much what Catherine wanted. Well, what's going to happen is he gets married at 14. He becomes king at 15 when his daddy Henry dies. And then we're going to see that he is going to get sick as a child, and so he has a ear infection that turns into a abscess on the brain. So, like, you guys just get tubes and antibiotics. Like, this is how far it could go. But he was just a little kid, so he was a regent, so he's going to die. And then we know what happens to Mary, Queen of Scots, and, of course, so this whole thing is off. And so that leaves Catherine again here to be a regent. And we're going to really then come back to like 3 warring families. And so the throne is in fragile control. So we have 3 weak sons. We have one that died of an ear infection. We have Catherine de' Medici, who can only rule as a regent. And then we're going to have 2 other families come to power to start to question the authority of the throne. And I think I have those here. Okay. So did you get all 3 kings down? We'll come back to each of them in detail, but we're still talking about the interim between Francis II and Charles IX, and then Henry III. Yes, ma'am?
So she was only able to rule as regent because the kingliness was running through Henry, not her, whereas with Elizabeth, she was
actually the only, legitimate heir to Henry at the time. Legitimate, although people would argue. Okay, so she's going to end up playing both sides in the Civil War. I guess I didn't type a lot of information here because it's mainly background knowledge. So we'll come up to it. So the 3 kings, she is regent. We're going to have then another family. I'm going to flip sides just to make sure that I didn't put it there. Oh, yeah, she was a looker too, guys. Like, yeah, look at that.
That's something
Yeah. Female Martin Luther. That's the first time I've heard that, but you're kind of right. I did. I remember I do pictures in here and not as many words. Okay, so here's Francis II. We just talked about. It was said that the crown was so heavy because he was, that it like wobbled, like his neck wobbled when he had it on. And so then this is Mary, the Queen of Scots, who, for being Catholic, and but very young when they get married. Yeah.
Mary was just not a very lucky name at this time.
No, yeah, stay away from it. Okay, so we're going to have these other families come on, which is why we're going to have a French Civil War. So we have the Valois family. We have Henry dead. We have 3 very weak sons, and definitely mama's boys, because we're going to talk about some things that happened. I'm like, how did you let your mama talk you into that? Catherine, I guess you could tell by her portrait, is a ball buster. She is not taking anything from anything, but we have 2 families rise up who see the weakness and want to rise to power. So we're going to have the Valois, who are Catholic. We have the 3 boys and Catherine, and we've already talked about. Then the second is going to be our Bourbons. Between 40 to 50% of nobles are going to become Calvinists, and many are Bourbons. So this becomes our second group. So you can write down Bourbons. So we have the Valois, who are Catholic. We have the Bourbons, who are Huguenots. Many of them converted not because of the faith, but because they wanted to take power away from the crown. And then our third family right here is the ultra-Catholic, right here, the Guise family. G-U-I-S-E is on the board. Like ultra super crazy, like even like normal Catholics aren't good enough Catholics. They're like extremists. So this is our third group. So we have 2 groups of Catholics, 1 super Catholic, 1 regular Catholic. I feel like I'm ordering coffee right now. And 1 mocha latte in the middle Huguenot group, the Bourbons. So the Guise family in the north, Bourbon family, Huguenots in the south, and they're all fighting for royal inheritance. Valois are the kings right now.
They're the regular Catholics?
Regular Catholics,
Okay.
yeah. I know, it just has to get confused. The French, I'm telling you. And so we have these 3 groups here, and we're going to see that the Bourbons feel that they're next in line to inherit the throne, as the Valois did not produce a male heir. And so, yeah. So it just goes back to the time period before the Valois kings, before the 100 Years' War, that they're next in line then. So they're amping for power. They're all fighting for the royal inheritance. And the ultra-Catholic Guise family also competed for this throne, and they're strongly anti-Bourbon. Okay, so we have these 3 groups. Yes, ma'am?
The 2 kings.
Yep. So we're going to talk about, it's very weak, though. They're very little kids. So Catherine, if the Catherine's gone, those little boys don't have a regent. Yeah, so very weak. So we've already had 1 die from an ear infection. We're going to talk. 15 is when Francis took the throne, so he's the eldest of the children. And he is 16 when he dies of an ear infection. And so I think the other 2 are around 9 and 5-esque, if I remember correctly. Okay. So what's going to happen is Catherine is crafty. She is the fox of Machiavelli. She is going to support the Guises in the first phase because they are ultra-Catholic. Okay, there's going to be the Civil War. She's trying to just maintain the power of her sons. And she's like, so how can I get full support? And you can title this if you want under the St. Bartholomew Day Massacre. This is what's going to happen as a result of all this. Have any of you learned or remember about the St. Bartholomew Day Massacre? No? Yeah, Jason? Yeah. St. Bart's Day. There you go. There is, oh my gosh, and we're not going to have time today, and I might link it for you. I was questioning even showing it anyway, but if you want to make a side note, just because I remember stuff if I see something funny about it, I think that's just in my character. There's a really good Family Guy episode on the religious wars, but it makes fun of Jesus too much for me to show you in class, but I was going to show you the link, but you can write it in your notes to remind me to tell you, because it actually does have some pretty historically accurate information. It just, of course, they had to go off and make fun of Jesus a little too much to make it. I don't like those kind of phone calls at home about those kind of videos I show, so we'll try not to keep it there. But just before I forget, so Catherine, she supports the Guises in the first phase. She's very cunning. She wants to know how she can keep her power. And so she is going to support them through there, and we're going to see then, we were on Francis II had just died. Her second son is going to step up. This is going to equal the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, because what she's going to do after this, after she realizes the Guises in the first phase are going to not provide her as much support as maybe the Huguenots or the Protestants could, she is actually going to kind of flip-flop sides. And she's going to say, okay, the Guises don't think we're Catholic enough. They're really vying for the throne. What I really need to do is get these Bourbons, these Huguenots on my side. And so she starts to offer them religious freedoms. First, it's just you can practice your religion in a field. That's the first thing she offered them. I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, well, let us go pray in this field. You can't practice it in any of the churches. You can't practice it just in fields. But she's trying to get some toleration so she's not worried about them uprising. Okay? Then the guy's family is going to be really ticked off with this and kind of turn against her for it. And so she's going to need even more Protestant support. And so we've talked about her 3 sons, but she has a daughter as well. And so she is going to arrange a marriage between her daughter, who is Catholic, to a Protestant called Henry Navarre. And this was intended to reconcile the Catholics and the Huguenots. So they had this whole wedding arranged. But she's still Catholic, and they still don't like the Huguenots. But his family's going to have to, it's his wedding, going to have to come in. So they tell all these Huguenots to come in for the wedding, and they tell them to come unarmed. Just because there's been all this fighting, right? Like, you're coming to the wedding unarmed. And so they show up unarmed. And what happens is the guy's family takes advantage of this, and they kill a member of the wedding party first, which sparks, they're unarmed, and they don't just kill him. Like, it's not just like, you came unarmed, you silly guy. They kill him, throw his corpse out a window, then they castrate him, and then they have young children drag his body behind them, like on cobblestones down the streets. I'm just like, whoa, okay. Like, you made it clear that you are overstepping your bounds to go through all that. So they do all of this. They kill.
Imagine the person that coordinated that.
Yeah, I know.
Can you
Like,
imagine that? The coordinator.
Yeah.
So step 1 is we kill him. Step 2 is we castrate him, and then you like get all the kids
Yeah.
together and you like tell them what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's like,
just the organization of that.
it's
So first we're gonna
alright,
need
kids, you're gonna drag a ghost.
we need 10 of our creepiest looking children of the corn kids. We need a rope and a knife, and yeah.
It's like the stage director. Like,
Yeah.
where are the children of the corn? Stage left entrance.
Stage left entrance now. We need a cobblestone road so it's really bumpy. We need this to really be an effect. Yeah.
For today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, undoubtedly, the Huguenots are pretty upset, right?
Is it an English Mexico? Is it
They-
French precision?
They turn to Catherine and say, you got to do something about this. Here we all are. We came unarmed. You need to do something about this. Catherine, being the fox she is, realizes that the Huguenots are ready to rebel. And she doesn't think that she can hold probably the guy's family and their power accountable. So she does the only other thing she can think of, well, all these Huguenots are here unarmed. I will just massacre all of them so that they can't rebel. And so this is the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, August 24th, 1572. When the mayor, and remember, like, and this is the sad fact, I don't know, remember, I didn't tell you this already. Her daughter still marries the Huguenot guy. Like, they get married. This is, so this is like all kinds of sorts of, she's a mock, if you talk about like doing what you got to do, the means, the ends justify the means. Like, this is a lady that had that going on. Yes, ma'am.
Who are the people that killed the first guy? Just some people.
The guy's family.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Catherine didn't have any of this plan. She was just like spur of the moment. I guess you're all gonna die.
Yeah, kind of just like, you have to take into account she's in a very fragile position. If they're willing to step up and do something like that massive the night before the wedding, when she's next. They're showing her. So she orders this, and actually she orders her second son to order the massacre of the Huguenots. And so, from all accounts that we have, he was pretty much a mama's boy. He was pretty weak-willed. He had anxieties. He has TB, which we're going to see is going to cause this. So this really flares up. So on one side, you're going to see why he's really boastful about it, but then he has these huge episodes of remorse and weeping and tears, and she's kind of like that mom that's smacks him in front of people, get yourself together, and we're going to see it's all kinds of problems, and then he's going to have a TB attack from this, but it's Charles IX, it's her second son. Yes.
It's not tuberculosis.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. Shorten it. I worked in a hospital for a long time, so it's just TB vaccination, TB test. And so Charles IX is going to be pretty weak. He's going to go ahead and do what his mother says. They're going to massacre 20,000. 20,000 Huguenots are killed by early October. And this is going to end in the third son because, so Charles IX does this, but he has, like I said, tuberculosis. It's going to cause these fits of anxiety. Like on one side, he'll be really boastful about like how he's stopping Protestantism. And on the other side of it, like I said, he has these fits of anxiety. He starts coughing up blood within the year. And he's going to die, which is going to leave our third son to step forth. And that's going to be Henry. Okay, so Henry III, and this is where we're going to get the War of Three Henrys and where we're going to pick up with our lecture this weekend.
Confusing chapter.
I know, like the three Henrys. Well, Henry Navarre, who's going to go ahead and marry Margaret. Okay, and then we're going to see our third Henry come to the stage as well. So yeah, I told you, the Wars of Religion is not so hard. Like the concepts we talk about, like other than Catherine being like totally sly, aren't really hard to understand. Like it's Catholic versus, but it's all the names that get thrown in, and I'm going to do my best to keep it unconfusing for you. We'll create charts and such. But that's where we're going to leave us. But I want to leave you with a thought here. Who's going to be really, really happy? Oh, Henry of Navarre. There's your second Henry. The Bourbon, of course, that just married the Medici daughter, or the Valois daughter, is going to survive, and that's going to lead us to our wars. Here's a painting. Okay, so no weapons in one set of people's hands and lots of weapons in the other. So the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. And then I
But
wanted...
the castle looks good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so I put some visuals in here. I forgot about it. Okay, so here is where we're going to get the War of the Henrys and where we're going to leave off. But I want you to really think about who else would be really happy about 20,000 Protestants being dead?
The Pope.
The Pope. The Pope is going to make a mass about Catherine, like a song for mass about Catherine. Going to praise her, going to give her titles. And so we're going to come back to how that plays out for the Pope and all of these crazy people in the lecture this weekend with the War of the Henrys. I mean, that's just funny in itself, the War of the Henrys. And so I want to leave you the rest of the time to, I know that you guys were kind of stressed about the Merriman reading, to get some time to actually read. Some of you sound like you have some pretty intense weekend going on. It makes more sense, I think you would agree, if you've been exposed to some of this before you come to lecture. Because lectures do go fairly quickly because we have so much content to cover. So I want to give you that time. If you weren't here, I think everyone that's here today was here last time. We're just missing Omer, so you can like tell him hi on the recording. And then you got your study packets and everything, so you also have that to be looking over because we're halfway through the Wars of Religion. So you could possibly test your knowledge in Unit 1.4 study packet right now, as well as take some of those Jeopardies and put them to good use. So any questions before I turn off the recording or anything we missed? Okay, cool. I really like how we fit Leviticus and all kinds of funny, cool stuff on that recording. So